You know, let's. Yeah, take your space.
We call the meeting to order of the regular meeting of the Village of Corrales governing body. Please turn your phones, please put your phones on vibrate or turn them off so we don't disturb people who are talking or making presentations. And once you've done that, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys. Councilor Miera.
Here.
Councilor Woolman.
Present.
Councilor Knight.
Here.
Councilor Alsabrook.
Here.
Councilor Burkett.
Here.
Councilor Murray.
Here.
Everybody's present. I need a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Well, there we go. We got, gosh. Did you get,
We're ready.
did you get them all, Melanie? Okay.
We've had a month to get ready.
First on the agenda is approval of appointments. Are you complaining?
No, a
Um,
little bit.
approval of appointments. First one is Charlene Spiegel to the Lodgers Tax Board. She runs a local bed and breakfast and has interest in being on this board, volunteering for the Village of Corrales. Do I have a motion to approve Charlene Spiegel?
So moved.
Do I have a
Second.
second? And a second. Does anybody want to make any comment? She's a very nice lady. She does a very good job. I think she was at one time in a member of the police department somewhere.
Up in Rio Rancho.
Yeah.
She's an outstanding member of the Corrales Tractor Club.
And she has a tractor too?
Well, I don't know about that.
Oh, she's in the club. Okay, I won't say anything. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, there you go. Next is Sandy Rasmussen, local activist,
Rabble rouser.
Rouser.
That's right.
appointment to the Capital Improvement Advisory Commission, which meets about once a quarter, and it's really focused on the far northwest sector. It's just an oversight job that doesn't require, well, it does require some expertise, some financial expertise. Do I have a motion to approve Sandy Rasmussen?
Move to approve.
How about a second? And a second. Okay, we got a motion to approve in a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The next two are brand new appointments to the Farmland Preservation Agricultural Commission. Does anybody have any objection to not considering them together? Can we do them both together? Did I say that right, John? Okay. Okay.
So
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any comments anybody wants to make?
are they joining us?
Edwina, Mr. Rodolfi, are you here? Okay, I guess not. I don't see any hands going up. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Very good. Next is Garth Dowling, appointment to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission. He apparently has wanted to be on this commission for some time and they want him. So do I have a motion to approve him?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Mr. Dowling, are you here? Okay, let's move on. Yes, sir.
Well, I will comment that he has attended the last couple of meetings and I think he's a worthwhile member to be added to this committee.
That's what I was told.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good. We're 5 for 5. Next is appointment, these are two reappointments. Can we do those together?
Yes.
Any objections? Okay, so first is Romy Baca, also to the Senior Advisory Committee, as is Rebecca Ballantyne, reappointment to the Senior Advisory Committee. Do I have a motion to approve
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Your appointments are done, Melanie. Or I should say ours. All right, presentations. First will be the Corrales Kiwanis Club presentation of donation check to the Corrales Animal Services by Sue and Glenn Hinchcliffe.
Never heard of it.
They have a big, oh, good. They got a big check.
Well, don't admit that. I've been giving her a hard time.
We want to thank the mayor and the village council for allowing us this time. we represent the Kiwanis Club of Corrales, who along with the village of Corrales, put on the yearly Harvest Festival. A major highlight of that festival is the swearing in of the new pet mayor, which Mayor Fahey was so gracious to anoint and appoint, and they got to, Animal gets to lead the Sunday Pet Parade during the festival, where not only do the candidates participate, but other animals and pets of the village
And people.
and people. Well, they're animals.
Well, okay, that's
The new pet
fantastic.
mayor has an important duty, and that is to raise donations. And those donations are represented by this check that we have to give, that were given by the people who voted for each of their candidates. And we use the Chicago method, vote once, vote often. And we are pleased to do that. And I do want to raise one other person up, and that's Tracy Stabnow, who can't be here tonight, but has headed up this committee and this activity for years, and we couldn't do without her. And so we, the village people who have voted, are pleased to present this check to the Corrales Animal Control Services, knowing it will be put to good use.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
does that mean Ron has to take that check and try to cash it?
I bet he's willing to try.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much. Please pass it on to your membership. We really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I don't mind following the pet mayor. Now we're going to hear from APS. They have plans for our elementary school, Dean Cowdery and Tanya, excuse me, from Roma Architecture. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody, for having us. Thank you guys for joining. I'm Dean Cowdery. I'm a partner with Roma Architecture. This is my colleague, Tanya Nevades. She's the project manager for your new project. This is project very exciting for us because we have, there's a connection to Corrales that we have. My partner, James Lucero, who couldn't be here today, actually lives right down the road, a mile down. So this has been kind of an exciting project for us to be a part of. So thank you. So APS asked us to kind of go over with everybody what our plans are for the new school. A little background on the, we need the slideshow. You can go to the next slide, please. So we were tasked with, so it's an existing elementary school. We were tasked with converting that to a K-8 school, like a smaller K program. And so that involved adding approximately 56,000 square feet to the existing campus, but we are removing the building, the original building from the 50s right along Corrales Road to make way for this new construction. That building has served its useful life. It's kind of in rough condition. There's also a mini gym that needs to be replaced. It doesn't even have bathrooms. So, and then we're adding another classroom wing to support this new middle school. In total, once everything's built out, it's going to be a little over 100,000 square feet, sort of spread out across the campus. Next slide, please. So early on, we formed a design committee with members from the school community, including the principal, the kindergarten teacher, many teachers, couple parents, couple students, and we worked with them for really almost a year now. And really the goal of these design committee meetings is to kind of establish overarching goals, right, that we design to, because it is their school. So that's kind of what the purpose of these were. And next slide, please. So we kind of ended up with four sort of overarching goals that led the design intent. The first goal was that the design should reflect the values of that school community. And we'll touch on all these, how we did that a little more later. And number two is that the architecture should inspire learning. Very important in the school, obviously. And then number three was the design needs to be thoughtful of the existing context. You guys know Corrales better than we do. There is a very unique vernacular tradition here. The way the buildings look, the way the village is sort of planned. We wanted to echo that in our design. We don't want to be outsiders. We wanted those buildings to fit in. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, we wanted the design to allow the kids to be safe and worry-free. So security and all that, you know, we are living in these times, was paramount for the whole design. Next slide, please. So what are some of those values that we determined through the with the design committee? One thing we always like to do are these word clouds that you see up there, and it's an exercise where we ask a question. For example, on this one, it was, what is it about your school that is unique or special compared to others? And this software sort of brings the words forward that are important to this school community. And you could see notions like community, family, tradition, all these were very important to this school. And then the other aspect that became very clear is just the natural environment that surrounds this campus. It's beautiful down here with the acequias, with the bosque, everything. So, you know, how do we harness that in the new design? And then as part of our work, at least at our firm, we always, if we're building in a new place, we sort of like to take a deep dive into the history, especially a place like this that has so much history. And as you guys know, Corrales, it's been around a while, going back to indigenous folks, and then later with the Spanish arriving in 1500s. So there is a deep, rich history here that we wanted to honor. On the next pic, you can kind of see later, you know, after the land grant and everything, that it sort of developed into this great agrarian community that we have today. In fact, back then there was orchards and vineyards all over. But what's cool about this place is that is still part of the fabric of this community. You can go on, yeah. Another kind of interesting fact is, as you guys probably know, is this idea of these long lots, the Spanish form of urban planning, where these long lots are abutted to the river to allow everybody access to irrigation, which is kind of fun. And that little white spot is our campus. It was on one of those old long lots. Of course, it kind of borrowed two of them, I think, there, but I'm just showing this because it was a very kind of tough campus. It's a long, narrow campus. And then, you know, the community today is so great, and I think that's what makes this school special. All your events. I was here the other day visiting my business partner and got stuck in one of your parades. I think it was the horse parade. So
You
Yeah.
weren't stuck, weren't you
I'm
participating?
sorry. I shouldn't use the word stuck. Yeah. I was the leading the march.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, you can go to the next slide. And then the school community we talked about. This is truly a community school, which we appreciate. The community participates. The school has events. They have an archery club. All that stuff was important. So we wanted to, in the new design, maintain that community aspect. So we wanted it to be secure, but also very inviting at the same time. So our goal was to kind of, how do we draw all these four things together? This idea of community, this idea of this vibrant Corrales place, childhood, of course, and education. How do we kind of tie all these together? And then we kept coming back again to this beautiful landscape with the shaded trees, the bosque, the ancient ditch system. All that we wanted to incorporate somehow as a teaching tool into the campus. of the school. So let's get into kind of the planning and organization, then we'll talk about the design of the building. And then open it up for any questions you guys might have. One more, yeah, sorry. So here's, just to orient everybody, here's the existing aerial. So there's Corrales Road on the left to the west. So that existing building that has the courtyard, that's the one from the 50s that has used served its useful life. And it'll be demolished, and then there's a little mini gym there that's in really rough shape, and it doesn't even have bathrooms. And then there's a newer school sort of up there in the northeast corner from the 90s, very good condition. That stays, that building stays there. We're just doing very minor touch-ups to the interior. And one of the big problems with this was that you see that long catwalk, that long covered walkway. You could imagine as teachers, because the cafeteria is down there at the old building, so they'd have to cattle wrangle kids all the way from the building to lunch every day. So the idea was to kind of connect everything a little closer, that you'll see in a sec. Next slide, please. Another kind of issue that I think this campus had was the site circulation of vehicular traffic. Right now, you can kind of see the parent drop off in yellow. So they would come in off this private road, head north, drop off, and then leave on Target Road. There's not a lot of queuing depth, what we call queuing depth, where we get cars off the road, off of Corrales, off of public roads, into the campus so they're not blocking traffic. So there wasn't a lot to begin with. So that's something that we really worked on that we'll share with you in a sec. And buses were down here on the south private road. So here's kind of this is the new site plan. So you can see where the play field is there. That's where the old building was that we are going to be demolishing. And you'll notice that sports hall, that's the replacement for the gym. And that was very intentional. So the play field, driving down Corrales, you just see those fields, right? Like it's doesn't have an urban feel. So gym is, it's a slightly taller building, right? It's 20-some feet. So we wanted to push that away from the road and sort of give that field back to the community. And on that note, there's a pocket park, this little outside area that you can see all the way on Corrales. We sort of dedicated that back to the village, if you will, as this sort of public area, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then the existing building remains, a new 2-story classroom building on the south and east. And then the new dining hall up in the corner there. And that 2-story building, we wanted it set back, and we did that to preserve as much open space as possible. That was, it's a tight, narrow site, as I talked about before. We can go on. Site circulation. So I think this is one of the bigger changes that we made that we think is going to really help. We brought the parent pickup drop-off loop down to the south there. So you see they go all the way to the back of the site, they loop around, they drop off at the loop, and then they exit in the same place. They're not on public roads. And all that queuing depth, we think is really gonna get people off of the public roads. Before they would go off onto Target, and there's neighbors over there, not super fair. So now it's on a private road. Buses come in on the other private road, and the only people on Target will be visitors, which will be a handful of people a day, just visiting the school. Most of the parents dropping their kids off will go off that south loop. Okay, let's talk about the design a little bit. So Corrales, you guys know this place well. What I think of when I drive through Corrales is like adobe, like materials, right? I think of adobe, I think of stucco walls, coyote fences, of course the cottonwoods, and even tin roofs. I picture a lot of these older buildings with the corrugated tin, and then of course the fields. And those colors and materials inspired our palette. Again, we wanted it to tie into the community. So here's kind of a view from Corrales Road. This is that pocket park I told you about that's sort of almost dedicated back to the village. And you can see an adobe wall beyond. We're using some exposed adobe here and there as another ode to the traditions here. That forms the secured perimeter of the school. You could sort of see the gym in the background pushed back there. And then the next slide, you'll see, like, we talked about this active community, right? So we could see this as kind of a cool little hangout spot during your parades that I was a part of the other day. Here's kind of a bird's eye view, looking to the southwest. So in the lower left there is the new dining hall building. And Tanya is going to talk about this a little bit more, but I talked about this idea of sort of drawing the nature into the campus. And so to the left there is this, we're calling it a landscape sanctuary, but it's this sort of outdoor learning area that she's going to talk about more, that connects to the ditch. The ditch, you know, the acequias along the left side there. You could see the new classroom building beyond, and then over there toward Corrales Road is the new gym and the field beyond. And this is just another angle, so you can get a kind of sense of the whole campus as it'll be. And so I wanted to touch on this real quick. So we talked about this balancing of security and inviting. So between these buildings, we created this large, we're almost calling it like a promenade between this gateway. Now it has to be secure, so we've designed these big gates that are also made of latillas. They're coyote fencing. That regular school hours, it'll be closed off. Nobody can enter the campus without going through a single point secured entry vestibule in the original main building. But this is a very community oriented school. There may be after school events that use the cafeteria. That gate can be slid open, sort of making it feel open and opening into these what we hope to be great plazas. This is moving further in. This is the new classroom building. You can see that, it's all stucco colors, very much fitting in with the neighborhood, but we do have these pops of color that were inspired by that palette of the sort of, we were thinking about as like dappled, the foliage, you see when you're walking through the bosque. And that palette kind of continues to the inside. There's some breakout spaces where kids can collaborate and do sort of team teaching and collaborative learning. But we're using these sound clouds, like acoustical clouds that have those colors that we're thinking kind of reflect that bosque character. You can see here on the next slide, this is another breakout area in the second floor. I mentioned this tradition of coyote fence or latilla fencing. So we're even using that as an element on the outside of the glass here to help shade or help modulate the sun from the western and eastern sun. So those are actually real latillas sort of bolted to the building that kind of provide a bit of sun relief on these exposed glass areas. Again, another sort of breakout space. We always try to connect these to nature. So they're always along glass. We found that they just get used a lot easier. It sort of opens out onto the courtyard. Here's the view looking back to that dining hall. Again, that you can kind of see that glass there has the latilla, the coyote fence in front of it, shading that glass. I mentioned the sort of tin roof that's kind of prominent here. So this is a shed, a big shed roof that is corrugated galvanized metal. And another kind of thing that we're really trying to do is collect all that water from these roofs. You can see a large gutter coming off of there. And Tanya will touch on this a little bit more, but we're collecting all that water and distributing it to feed all the plants. Really, the goal was not a single drop of water leaves the site. We're not storing it in tanks or anything like that, just good old fashioned permaculture, feeding it right back to the ground and to the landscaping. Again, we talked community school, so we're, it just shows you for a night event, say there's a recital, a Christmas play in the cafetorium is what APS calls it, you know, it's got a little stage in it. So this is just kind of what a night shop could be. And then moving into the cafeteria. We are exposing some adobe here and there as accents throughout the campus. This will have wood trusses supporting it, and then beyond that glass wall you see is the opening into this sort of nature sanctuary outdoor learning classroom that T-Bone, as I call her, is going to talk about a little bit more.
As previously mentioned, central to the design of the dining hall is the natural learning area. This area hosts an outdoor classroom that connects eventually to a stone seating area and a couple pollinator gardens with the natural channel that connects to the retention pond. This area was heavily inspired by the Canales and the Acequias by transforming the conventional gutter system into an educational tool for the kids to learn about Corrales agricultural history. We are trying to guide the water from the roof into the retention pond so then it will feed the existing flora, pollinator gardens, and eventually percolate back into the aquifer. Another objective of this area was to keep in mind the existing mature cottonwood trees by preserving as many as we could. And to reclaim a lot of the pavers from the existing 1950s building to try to bring back some of that history into the new structures. And with that, I bring it back to Dean.
Yeah, we're reclaiming some of the brick pavers that were inside the courtyard, which I think is kind of nice in this new landscape sanctuary. So this is a view into the new gym. Again, you sort of see the adobe kind of accent there. And this will be sort of what we call a butterfly roof, all joined by a great gutter that will convey water down into a sort of drain that will feed all the plants, like a perforated underground pipe. And finally, this is the field, that's between the school and Corrales Road. You can see the adobe wall kind of in the distance, Corrales beyond. So this, we hope, is sort of, giving, sort of has that field feel, irrigated field feel with the rest of Corrales has. But I think that's about it. And if, we're welcome, we take any questions you guys may have.
I saw a lot of areas for middle schoolers to congregate. I didn't see any playground.
Oh, maybe we can scroll back to one of the areas.
They might have been there and I just
Yeah.
didn't notice.
Yeah, I
I've
saw.
been there for 30 years. They
Okay,
need not just a grass field, they need places where
Yeah.
we're gonna have equipment.
But-
yeah,
There were
I'll
two of
show
them,
you.
weren't
This
there?
won't work.
If you go back to that aerial view, it's kind of a bird's eye.
I thought I saw.
Yeah, so those are the playgrounds for the younger kids. Those two, do you see them between the buildings?
Is that right there next to the parking lot?
That's
Sorry,
the
it's right
kinder,
there.
yeah, on the front side is the kinder tot lot,
Okay,
and then on the other side between the two buildings is first through fifth grade.
okay.
Yeah, and then the middle schools are down farther away. The idea was
Thank
to
you for showing me. I
have,
figured they had to be there, but I
Yeah.
couldn't see with the glare. Thank you.
Counselor Walden?
Yes, hi, this may be an unfair question for an architect, but how many students are at the school now?
man,
878.
378. Thank you.
And what do you anticipate once it goes to eighth grade? How many students will there be?
Built for capacity of 500,
I'm sorry?
525. So what's happening is,
Can you please come up and speak at the microphone so that people on Zoom can hear you?
my name's Kizito Wijenja, Capital Master Plan APS. The plan is, the kids who would have gone to Taylor Middle School will now stay in Corrales. And so we'll have 3 more grades. And so that will bring the capacity up to 525 if needed, but it'll probably be about 420.
That was going to be my next question. How many students were coming from outside of Corrales? But
At
our
this-
concern is traffic. And
Yeah,
just-
so the plan and the design for this school is in recognizing that Corrales is its own ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so, and what's been happening is that when the kids get to sixth grade, maybe 30% would go to Taylor, the rest would go to private schools. And it would exacerbate the traffic situation in this community. If we keep all those kids here, not only would they stay in our school, but it would keep the traffic down.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks,
you.
Mayor.
Councilor Burkett.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that while you're still up there? Sorry, sir. Yeah, so just looking at what the school population has been, it was, I think, 480 back in 2010 with 2 less grades. Obviously, the pandemic had an effect. With those 2 new grades, we're at only 370 now. So with 1 more grade, I mean, assuming 30 kids will be about 400. The demographics in the village, unfortunately, much to my chagrin, are not drifting younger. I mean, I think we've gone down 5% in the under 18 group in the past 15 years. So it feels like it's bigger to me than it needs to be. And I want to clearly state, I think it needs the improvements. I think there's a lot of stuff on here that's incredible. But I do worry that it's going to be a big school. And at some point, we're going to want to fill the big school. And that's going to require busing kids in from other places that are, or parents driving them in, that are going to have an opposite effect on the traffic that we're offsetting by keeping the ones local here. Any thoughts on just how realistic you think that number is? And I know Taylor's getting 30 million in improvements as far as size as well, correct? So they're going to have more capacity as well.
Yeah, contrary to that view, actually what we're doing is, like I said, this is its own ecosystem. And we design to what the households can potentially produce. So it's much more cost effective to design now than to wait until the population grows up, then you come and do another phase. It's a very small site, it's a very tight site. So it just makes a lot more sense logistically and economically to come in and do what Corrales produces right now, and maybe with a little bit of growth in the future. But we think this school will be compact. We think the population will hover around the high 400s, the low 500s. And there's all manner of other things that we're doing in the North Valley. We are not closing, but we are right-sizing Taft Middle School, and we're taking all that attendance into Taylor Middle School. We're taking any Taylor kids specifically from 7 Bar on the west side, taking them, making them stay in their neighborhoods. So the demographic challenge is being faced everywhere. And what we're doing is that we're consolidating and right-sizing the schools and making the schools a footprint that serves their surrounding communities and avoids things like busing.
Councilor.
Thank you, Mayor. I have the same concerns as Councilor Burkett. You know, we are an aging community, and I just hope that before APS put all this energy and money into figuring out what they were going to do with the Corrales Elementary School, which definitely needs help, that the families were asked for their input if they wanted a 6th grade through 8th grade, and how did that all occur?
It's actually the families that pushed for this. Families want to stay in Corrales. And for a long time, they've been petitioning to do this. They'd like to stay in Corrales. We polled the families, we had meetings with the families, and the major sentiment was if they can stay in Corrales, they will keep their kids there and not have to look for other things in terms of schools.
And I have one more question. So does Corrales already take transfers from other schools?
Yes, just like with other schools, if there is space, we allow for transfers given space. But, you know, Corrales has a really good reputation, so some people find that desirable. But again, Corrales is its own ecosystem. You'd really have to hoof it, especially if you're a working family, to come out here with the traffic, with the one way in, one way out, if you're going to transfer your kids here. So there'll probably be some transfers, probably some staff members who teach here and don't live in the village may want their kids to go to the school that they teach. But given your typical APS schools has 12% transferring out in and about 10% transferring out, I think this one will be typically, you'll probably see a 6% transfer in and maybe a 5% transfer out. So it goes both ways.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Councilor Waldman.
Yeah, Mayor, for the architects, can you tell me what the height of the tallest building is?
Yeah, actually have that slide to the end. It's, I can tell you that it's shorter than your tallest building now, which is the community, what's the community center called?
The the new gym?
Corrales Recreation Center. So we have a diagram that we kept in the back end just to kind of show you that. I believe it's 20. Yeah, a few more, sorry. Okay,
There it
so
is.
there it is, yeah. So, yeah, that's the Corrales Recreation Center on the left, 35.3. The sports hall is 34'5".
I would say there's a big asterisk next to that, though, that the Corrales Rec Center is about 500 feet from the closest property, and this is 30 feet from the closest property. So that is a very significant visual difference.
Councilor Murray. Oh.
Excuse me, the public really isn't supposed to be commenting right now. This is just for council members.
Councilor
Thank you.
Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So I do appreciate the improvements that are going to be made, but I do have some questions about the design that I think it need to be addressed. The long driveway for the parent drop off, I really have a concern with that because if anything blocks up that driveway at the front, you've got no way out. I had advocated at the last presentation at the Corrales Elementary, you put in an emergency exit down there by the loop so that it goes out onto the acequia, so that if there are cars and there are problems up front, now you've got an emergency exit to get the traffic out of there. If there is a fire in one of those buildings, especially if it's up by the gym, now you've trapped everybody. So you need an emergency exit out of that parent drop off. And I had advocated for that. I'm still going to advocate for that because I think you got a single point failure with that long drive.
Yeah, we have, so it probably didn't show in our pretty little diagram, but the latest drawings do have a way to, like a roll curb kind of. So at the end of the loop, you could just, it's a roll curb, you can drive over and end up where the,
Out to the interior drain is located then.
yeah, well, actually, and you could even get back on the target. It goes back to where the service drive
Okay.
is on the north side. So we did take that into
Okay,
effect.
thank you. So my other concern now is construction. How are you going to protect the kids while you have construction crews in there and different phases? I mean, you're going to tear down the front building, but is that the last thing you're going to tear down? Or how are you going to protect them from all the construction and all the intermixing of the equipment and the school?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we had to think about it a lot. We met with APS, we've met with the contractors. The nature of the long site actually makes it a little easier. I've worked on tougher campuses, I'll be honest with you. But we're able to, we're gonna have a fence line that divides all we're gonna do it in 2 phases. Actually, it's like phase A, phase 1A, phase 1B, phase 2A, phase 2B. But it allows all the construction to happen on one side of the site, completely closed off, barricaded, then swaps. So the students move over here. Well, that's not exactly, but yeah, there's everything is happening in multiple phases. That's the way we're dealing with it.
But is the bus drop off going to remain the same? Is it still going to come in on the south side, or are you going to kind of redirect that traffic while that construction is going on? Because I am anticipating that you're going to have heavy equipment running up and down what is now the bus lane.
Yeah, I think that's what, I will say the contractor is not, they're almost under contract, but not quite yet. There will be a lot of back and forth. They'll have a lot more to offer on that with us. In fact, they have to do egress plans. We have to meet with fire marshals and everything to make sure that while construction's happening, it's everything's safe and still moving. I couldn't tell you all the details yet until the contractor's on board. there'll be a lot of discussions between us, APS Facilities Design and Construction, and the contractor.
So is all the HVAC going to be on the roofs of the buildings, or, because I didn't really see anything that pertained to anything like mechanical. So where are you planning on putting all the mechanical?
So we have sort of penthouses, so you wouldn't have seen it from any of the views. You won't really see the mechanical system.
Okay, and
Except-
just to kind of advocate for Counselor Burkett's comment about the height, the gym is not a good representative of the village. We have a 26-foot height, had it for years, but the gym slid in and he has corrected is 500 feet away from the road. And the way it is right now with the design you have, you're right up against, everybody else. And so anyway, that's just one of my complaints.
Councilor Miera.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Casito, does, we talked, you talked about the fact that, when they do the, emergency evacuation for the kids for fire, you may have to use the ditch. Did you guys work something out on that one with regards to maybe that little, you talked about maybe we'd have to put a little bridge over it or whatever?
So sorry.
Thank
I'll
you.
answer this just because it was, it's funny, we got bids on the project from contractors. And two of them did have the idea of using that access and that they've done it in the past in this neighborhood. The problem, they'll have to get permission from the Conservancy and all that.
Right.
But it actually, we discussed with Jordan, yeah, it may or may not be a good idea. But it'll have to go through the Conservancy, but that may be an option to pull, as you're concerned, to pull construction trucks and everything down that road, but
I wasn't worried about the construction, just after that's all over with, when it's time to do the,
I'm sorry.
because you remember we had that discussion?
So you're just talking about in the future?
Yeah.
Like for vehicular traffic or?
No, just, we have a fire, where are the kids supposed to go? Because they can't stay on the property, they're gonna have to get off
I
property.
see, yeah, yes, so there's what they call Alice gates, with their exiting gates.
Okay.
That go out toward, in both directions, so we'll give options to go toward Corrales if the fire is coming from that side, and back to the ditch. There's definitely a direct path. That sanctuary area we talked about is actually a direct path.
So
to the-
they're gonna have permission from the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy for that purpose and that purpose only, fires.
That's a great question. We did not get that permission.
And it's not, Councilor Miera, it's not just the fires. Unfortunately, these days we have to work on the Alice protocol when there's active shooter. These days we don't do shelter in place. When there's active shooter, you go. And we have drills of where you marshal everybody where they go. And so after we finish the construction, there'll be discussions with both the Conservancy and maybe even some property owners who have large pieces of land over there that can be used as some egress for Alice protocol, not just for fire, but for safety protocols. Then unfortunately, we have to do that with every school. And he talked about the Alice gates. There are certain gates that you can go out, you can come back in. So you've got points of exit and points of exit for the school that are just for that, for emergency.
And you're preparing for that?
Yes,
initially?
and schools is being designed with that in mind.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
John.
Thank you, Mayor. The presentation in the packet, and you got a few other slides later, mentions total project duration of about 24 months. So my question is, one, is that still anticipated? And two, the presentation mentioned starting phase one in summer, which is 5 or 6 months ago. So do you anticipate starting phase one next summer and then going 24 months?
No, I think right now the plan is to start in around March. I believe the contractor that is winning the award, he had March, correct, Jordan? So he can mobilize and start in March. And a lot of that has to do with trying to get done. I told you we have to do multiple phases. Some of that work's gonna have to happen during summer months. So it's key that we start in March, or even a little earlier would be better, to then have the summer months to do some of that work that's in the old building. What was your second question? I'm sorry.
The duration was still anticipated at 24 months.
Yes, I think the I think it was 21 months was the actual completion. Does that sound right, Jordan? 21, 20? Okay, yeah, but around 24 months, yeah.
Counselor Murray.
So one, to follow up on Counselor Mier's question about safety, how are you going to deal with the parents? Because if there's an event where you have to move the children off campus, how are you going to deal with all the parent traffic? It's going to clog up Corrales Road, something fierce. So have you given any thought about those plans in addition to the safety of the students?
I'm sorry, what do you mean, a event at the school or?
Well, if there is an active shooter,
Oh,
what happens? Parents rush the school to get their kids. And if the kids are off campus, have you anticipated the additional traffic is going to clog Corrales Road, probably impeding first responders to the facility? So that's a concern I'm wondering about in addition to Councilor Miera's question.
So, Councilor Murray, yeah, that's a good question. So these are protocols that we're not just going to work with our own APS police, but we'll work with the Corrales Police Department. We work with Homeland Security. We'll work with Corrales Fire Department, where we'll come up with a plan, which at that point we'll probably bring it and familiarize it with this council because it's within this community. And there has to be a collaboration, not just with the Corrales Police Department, Fire Department, Homeland Security, and State Police in this case, and our police. And it's something that has to be crafted collaboratively, and it's something that has to be flexible and works for the community. Because it is, as you said, it's unique. It's a unique community and there's a bottleneck. And so you have to think about how you're going to work in those contingencies in terms of an emergency.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Burkett.
Yeah, thank you. So I think unfortunately that exists already, the emergency response problem, whether we do a improvement or not, that's already a challenge we have. But I have 3 design questions, and I apologize, they're going to be kind of broad categorical questions, but so the height of the building, again, is a concern. I know you'd mentioned earlier that some of the traffic patterns are going to be better for neighbors. They're obviously going to be worse for other neighbors. Those same neighbors are going to be staring at a 400-foot long stucco wall facing south. Is there any ability to decrease the size of the height of that 2-story building in the back, or start subterranean 6 feet or something to where it would feel less tall? Because it is a substantial flat slab of stucco with lighting that's going to be on 24 hours a day, even though it's only going to be at 50% at night.
yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think we could lower it. We did everything we could. It has very low parapets above the roof. That's why we removed the mechanical units from the roof we lowered it as much as we can, but 2 stories, you just need a certain amount of height to run ductwork and everything between the floors. So I think we got that. In fact, it's lower, that 2-story building, than the gym building.
Right.
And the same with the gym. There's a minimum height that, to shoot a basketball and to play volleyball. And we were just over that height. We kept it as minimal as we can. And we did try to orchestrate the composition of the facade on that side to not, you called it a huge 400-foot wall. That was something we were very concerned with. So we did try to modulate it a lot.
Yeah.
For that reason.
Okay, so if there are no possible adjustments to the plans, then what sort of accommodations can be made to kind of mitigate some of the effects of that, as far as maybe barrier fences, maybe landscaping that you can support the neighbors with, helping do landscaping that will improve the aesthetic appeal of it? Because I know that's a significant concern, and it's a concern for a small number of people, but it is a large concern for that small number of people.
Sure.
And everybody moves into Corrales, and we have specific rules, but you guys kind of operate as a sovereign property and don't really have to adhere to those. And that's good and bad depending on how you look at it, but I would love to hear that you guys are willing to work with and financially support some stuff that might help the neighbors mitigate those challenges.
Sure. Well, I can only answer some of that because I am a private architecture firm. I'm not affiliated with APS.
You can't sign the checks for them?
Yeah, I wish I could. But no, let me just talk about a few things that APS really wanted to hammer home so we could be good neighbors, that we could control. One was, we did add a privacy fence that goes along that entire perimeter all the way down, you know, a 6 foot high opaque screen so that people's backyards just isn't that the drop off loop, which was already there, by the way. And then lighting. So another thing we're very concerned about was the pole, pole lights, the parking lot lights. So we did have an electrical engineer and a lighting rep that did what they call photometric plans. And that was really carefully thought out. So we did not throw a single foot candle of light across that property line. All the light is directed or shielded toward, our site and tried not to, we did not spill any light onto the campus. Also, the way we treated the facade, we're probably a little biased, but we think it's a nice looking facade. We tried to make it nice and not be that just great wall, very imposing. We did try to break down the scale with the way we designed it.
Okay, all right. My last question is security. So there's two flavors of security on a school, particularly a school that's going to be K through 8. There's how do we keep undesirables off campus, which it sounds like there's a plan. I know currently we have the same plan to some degree where you walk through what looks like you're visiting somebody in prison, but the rest of the campus you could climb over with like a step stool. But my second question, I guess the bigger current is, and I was a fervent advocate of K through 8. I think it's great for the community, but that's when we had two distinct sides of the campus. And I think there's a big difference between a kindergartner and an 8th grader. And looking at the plans, the kindergartners and the 8th graders are in the, same general vicinity. It looks like it's maybe 2nd through 8th in one of the buildings, which still means they're sharing restrooms. How do we keep things that shouldn't happen between an 8th grader and a kindergartner, or that a kindergartner shouldn't see from seeing that with them all packed that closely together?
Well, I can't answer operationally how we do that, but let me tell you this. We designed a prototype. This was 6-7 years ago. That was a K through 8 prototype for APS. And we actually went to Florida. They had sort of revolutionized this K through 8 system. And what the data says that there's actually less bullying, less problems when you have kindergarten through 8th graders together. So there's almost a taking care of. I think this is proven through the literature that this actually, it's the exact opposite of what you intuitively think will happen, or a middle school sort of bullies an elementary kid or whatever.
Right.
So I think that was part of the reason for the model. A lot of times you have an older brother in middle school. But that's just from my perspective, what we learned. I can't answer that.
So, great question. So operationally, what we've seen with our other K through 8s, the ones they designed are much bigger. There are other K through 8s, Coyote Willow, which is also the family school, which is also a K through 8. And in this case, architecturally, you'll see that the kindergarten wing, first, second, kindergarten through 1st grade are kind of in their own little bubble. And they're in one side of the school, and they're also on the ground floors. The older kids are universally on the 2nd floors. In terms of things like the common areas, you'll find that there'll be a little mini gym for the younger kids. There'll be a big gym for big school events and community events, and things like music and art. You'll have a STEM lab for the little kids because they do things a little bit differently. And then you'll have a lot of technology and other uses for the larger kids. What is called the library, but it's not the library anymore, it's a tech area. Yes, and the playgrounds are also segregated. And the good thing about this school is that line of sight, the principal, the teachers, the administrators can actually have line of sight administering of what's going on. You'd be surprised of what goes on large campuses with tetherballs and things that we don't use anymore. So that's a lot of improvement. This firm has great experience. And in fact, the committee went and visited one of the designs they did. And then there's another design their firm didn't do, in which we run a small K-8. And it brings them into kind of line of how this school wants to run their program based on what this community does, what the program does. Now, I want to say something else about your first question, which is how we are willing to deal with the neighbors. We had meetings, we had a meeting just for the adjacent neighbors. We went and identified all the neighbors, all the properties that were adjacent to the school and will be affected by the height. And we had a special meeting for them. And then after that, any of the neighbors who wanted to meet with us one-on-one, we did. And we actually made some accommodation on things that we can do, things like the penthouses, which cost us dearly, it makes, it's a lot of difference in putting the mechanical systems in penthouses, which means it takes away your square feet. You have a long, narrow school, and so the footprint is very limited. You can't spread out. You can only go up, but we have mitigated that going up by doing a lot of other things. And let Karen Alderwood say a little bit about that in terms of what we've done in talking to the neighbors about this. And we keep on talking to them.
Yes, no, it's okay. You can keep talking if you want. But yeah, Karen Allery at Albuquerque Public Schools. We did have the meeting with all of the adjacent property owners. We had very good turnout. We were able to address a lot of their concerns. And then we continued to meet with the neighbors individually, one-on-one, as we continue to refine the plan. And as Dean talked about, the accommodations that we have tried to make, because we do realize that on that, particularly on that south side, there are some tall buildings there and they're right next to property owners. So I think we did a good job, and we'll continue to work with them if they have other concerns.
Councilor Alsobrooke.
Just a follow-up to that. It sounds like you have done some good outreach and planning to be a good neighbor. Ultimately, what's produced is not always what's planned or conceived. And so I would encourage you to continue that after the construction is complete to see if there are any post modifications, basically a knock list with the neighbors.
Yes, Councilor Murray.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up and just a comment. On that two-story building, one of the requirements we have within the village that if there are any large structures, we require them to break that up in terms of a facade. So it's not one continuous monotonous building, but we have a requirement. So it breaks that up and kind of makes it more interesting, because then you just don't have one big building. You have a series of facades that may look like a series of buildings. So please take that into consideration, but I know you have a budget and you're probably exceeded it already. But anyway, I think this will be a welcome addition to the village.
So any other, yes, sir, Councilor.
I'm sorry, just one last question for me. I think because I just noticed in one of the drawings, what looked to be panels on the roof. So is solar energy incorporated into the designs? Okay, thank you.
Councilors, Drew? Village Administrator, please.
I was just curious from a funding point of view. Karen,
Yeah.
Karen, I was just curious from a funding point of view. Is this project completely funded? And is the timeline available for us? As far as the funding being received, and is it obligated from the legislature?
It is not legislative money. It's local tax dollars. So mill levy and bond election. So no legislative money. It is obligated and identified, and we have the project fully funded. And the intent is to go to the APS board for final approval in January, and then with the anticipation of starting construction in March.
So is the funding contingent on any of the design changes or potential design changes that the counselors have brought up tonight?
Well, we have a contingency. So if there were something that warranted a major change that we haven't already made, because I think a lot of these things that the counselors have mentioned, we've already dealt with pretty much. So, but if there's something else that comes up, we do have a contingency.
Okay, thank you.
Real quick question.
Yes, Councilor Mira.
There's no PSFA funding at all? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dean. Appreciate it. Thank all of you who attended and informing us of this big job. Okay, so we'll move on to administrator's report. Mr. Curry?
First up is Tanya.
You can speak into that.
The first up is Tanya with some heavy duty COVID information.
In person.
Yeah. Oh, my.
Bad.
Thank you, Mayor, Counselor, and Administrator Curry. I'm going to start with yes, in person, but I told Jolene I'd be here with her. Second of all, I'm going to do a selfish plug for the food drive still going on. Donations, a giving tree is up. The tags are on the tree. If you haven't donated, please do. If you know someone who needs help, please reach out to me. Okay, we'll start with ILI, influenza-like illness in New Mexico. We are now at a moderate level. So the level of influenza is now orange, the lowest orange, but we're moving up. Arizona is at high already. Wastewater for flu A H5 in New Mexico. We started monitoring hard 10/21/24 in Bernalillo County and Santa Fe. No detection yet of H5 in our water, which is good. Staying with H5N1, there have been 60. CDC has 58 cases for human cases, but there's actually 60 now because Arizona just had their first 2 human cases and they got them from poultry. The United States has only had 2 cases that were not known where they've come from, no wild bird infections. We've now got 742 dairy herds affected with H5N1. So don't drink raw milk. And the other thing that is really important, if I don't think New Mexico does it, but some states, if they've said no more selling of raw milk because of virus detection, they can still sell it for pets. H5N1 in cats is really, really bad. And in ferrets also. So raw milk right now, just don't do it unless you know it's your livestock and they're healthy. We'll go down to COVID. Nationally, 4% positivity down from 4.4% last time. ER visits, the discharge diagnosis is up to 0.06% to 2.5%, up to 6 from 0.5, sorry. Hospital nationally is 1.5 persons per 100,000, and that's down from 1.7 per 100,000. Deaths is up though, less than 1% still though. It is 0.9% of all deaths are from COVID. Wastewater nationally is low. New Mexico. Wastewater is very, very high still. It looks like we kind of peaked and we went down a little bit and we've peaked based on my phone calls. Positivity in New Mexico is 13.2% with 3 out of 100,000 ER visits. Discharge diagnosis for New Mexico for COVID is 2.5%. Big difference from nationally. For flu, it is less than 1%. It's 0.94. And for RSV, it's still really low, 0.6%. Sandoval County, though, is 6.9 cases per 100,000. COVID discharge diagnosis at 4.7%. Flu is at 1.6, so it's a little higher. And RSV is still under 1%, but at 0.09. So what that was, all that mean? Get your flu shot if you haven't done it this year. It's here. If you're had your 24-25 COVID vaccine, after 6 months, you can get another one. If you're over 65, look at your RSV vaccine as well. There's 2 different types, and I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions? So there's going to be a test
That's right.
on that.
Don't drink raw milk is the answer.
Well, there you go.
Get your shots.
Get your shots. Okay, far away.
All right. We always like to give you an update on the business permits. We're up to 214 now for this year that have come into the village for new permits. And we have a total of $34,600 in the lodgers fund. I know Councilor Murray had been inquiring about how some of that money can be spent. So that money continues to build. Uh, We have Lori and Brian Gresham who are sitting here in the audience. Brian is our building inspector. And you may hear from him later or not, but I just wanted to bring out the fact that we've had 29 new building permits for homes, 29 new homes in the village within this calendar year. And it's hard for us to give us a comparison on that compared to the last 2 years because the state had been doing some of those for us. But this is the first full year that in the last 3 years that we've had Brian here that's been able to give us a full year with 29 new homes. And these are not remodels. These are new homes that have been built in Corrales in the last year. Another bit of information, and I give you this every now and then, once a month at least, is that looking at the local government investment pool, the LGIP, we're looking at just barely south of $4 million on it as the interest continues to run between $15,000 and $17,000 a month on that goes into the fund. So with that, I'd like to ask Anthony to come up. He's got a couple of issues he's going to talk about, including a new recycling plan for old Christmas trees, but they're still new right now.
Mayor, Council, Administrator Curry. Just give you an update on some of the projects that are going on. I know I've been before you kind of giving you updates on water and where we're at. So recently we just completed a hydrostatic pressure test on the new hydrant along Pereira Road by the Acequia, so it's fully functional. That hydrant is going to allow us to reach some of the residents over by North Feliz Pereira and South Feliz Pereira in those back sections where it's long, narrow drives. We are waiting, APS did not give a briefing on this, but we're in the process of trying to make the connection to support the fire suppression system. As you know, we are going to be expanding on the Andrews Ditch. So we've been in partnership with APS on making that connection where they're going to connect to our line across the street, the fire suppression line. And we're hoping probably the beginning of this year when school is out, so they can make that connection across Corrales Road. It will impact traffic. They're going to try to do it as quickly as possible, keep one lane open. As soon as I get the traffic plan, I'll be sharing it with administration. We have been successful in receiving a New Mexico State Fire Protection Grant for $500,000, which is going to allow us with the capital outlay that we had earmarked for Angel Tower, which wasn't enough, but together we have enough funds to go out to bid to build a water tank on top of Angel. It'll be a 500,000 gallon water tank. And Tanya is the author of that grant, and she did a phenomenal job, and we'll be we were briefing administration today and going out for bid soon. We will be seeking funds from the New Mexico State Legislature this year to help us connect the water tank as we build it to connect to Loma Larga, which would be a very important part. So we're going to be actively seeking that. In about 2 weeks, pending my meeting tomorrow with the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy, we are slated to start construction from the back of the elementary school to Dixon Road, which is about 1,800 feet of pipe. That is earmarked under the money we got from the governor, I believe, last year. So we're finally ready to start that project. That's just the start. Our goal is to get a hydrant all the way to the Bosque at the end of Dixon by spring of this year. When we're complete with that, then we're going to start running our water line south along the Andrews Ditch and the easement that we share with the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy. So that's just kind of a summary. We've been super busy. We have other things in the works as far as our legislative funding that either expires as of June. We're actively working on price quotes and getting that money encumbered. Yeah, so I'll stand for any questions.
Talk about the Christmas trees.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
sorry?
Christmas trees.
The Christmas trees. Oh, yes, yes. So this year, with the support of the administration and our public works and the fire department, we're going to offer our Christmas tree recycling. And so we're going to get that information out via the mayor's message and our social media, and we'll pick a location and a time. And we'll be happy to, recycle Christmas trees. We'll have specific instructions, please take all the tinsel and your fancy ornaments and stuff because they make a mess when they go through the wood chipper and they're dangerous. But it's something that we've never really done for our community, but we'd like to do this year. So.
And no
Yeah.
flocked trees.
No flocked trees, yes.
Yes, sir. Councilman Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So I noticed, it looked like the MRGCD was out working on the Sandoval lateral ditch over by my road. So are they working to clear that dead and down that are along there, or are they just doing some minor work?
Mayor, council, they had a meeting that I was unable to attend. I think that's their approach. They've heard from all of us, including citizens, that that's an area that is definitely of a need of, clearing out the vegetation, definitely around the power lines. So I'm assuming that's what's going on, but I can find out more information tomorrow. I'm meeting with them.
And how is the negotiations with P&M about the tree clearing? That, as a result of the last storm we had, you had mentioned that you were going to negotiate with P&M to hopefully get them in to a maintenance mode of taking care of these trees.
Yes, Mayor, Council, we're still in the process of working on that. I've been working with the clerk's office. We are going to be revisiting our franchise agreement. We were close for my comments, but after the storm, I wanted to make some edits because it was kind of a learning lesson. And I think moving forward, we're going to work with P&M hopefully more closely and trying to identify these areas of need and more of a managed schedule type maintenance rather than, during the emergency. There was a lot of work. We got some good feedback from citizens. Some of the trees, they're, like a V shaped. We've gotten some citizens complaints about they don't want to see their trees cut. So it's a collaborative effort between the Village of Corrales, educating our citizens about the importance of vegetation around high powered lines, along with working with P&M to kind of find that balance so we can make our community safe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to come up with a vegetative management plan to be more proactive when we talk to P&M. So this is what we would like to see, something like this. Now that the plans that Anthony has found, deal with all kinds of issues with regard to even road safety, for example. But those things are important also.
Yeah, I think some of the problems that we run across is getting permission from landowners so that P&M can access those lines. I mean, they've got easements along those private, lots. They still have to get permission, at least the contractor does, from the landowner so they can access those things.
Yes, and again, that goes back to the education of just trying to inform the citizens of what is obligated under, like PRC and what the utility company has to do to make sure that their power lines are safe. But the burden also comes back to the property owner about not planting trees underneath high power lines. If you're going to plant something, trying to give them options of things that only grow up maybe 10 feet. And once the utility company comes through and cuts and makes it safe, then the citizen, he or she, or they could hire somebody to maintain that because they have kind of a responsibility as well to making sure that that tree doesn't get back into the power lines. So.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Sure. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony. Oh, before you continue, I just want to recognize someone who tried to sneak in, our representative, Kathleen Cates. She's stuck there in the back. She didn't want us to know she was here. I'm sure that's what it was. And thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Representative. Couple things on Public Works. We have so many things going on in Public Works, whether it's projects that we're in the process or Michael's in the process and Steve are in the process of doing. We're in the process of trying to make sure that we have the funding correct so that we can get it obligated correctly for ICIP work. But next month, I want to bring to you what we anticipate completing in the next calendar year in the way of public works, because we're expanding the department. We're looking at expanding it, maybe 2 more employees. You'll see some of that on the agenda tonight. And as Corrales continues to evolve in one form or another, the public works efforts demand a lot. And we're trying to do our best to make sure that we get our folks in the best way to serve the residents of Corrales. And one of the things that I wanted to put up right now, we've had some requests to mention the radar speed signs that will be installed tomorrow, 2 on La Entrada and 2 on Meadowlark. And then also as a request from the Equestrian Committee primarily, these signs have been installed at both ends of Corrales and also at the top of Meadowlark as we start to move forward for that. But these are 4 signs that Michael has put together along with his staff, listening to the Equestrian Committee to just ask people to be aware of what's going on in the village. So. And then like I said, the radar signs will be installed tomorrow, 2 on La Entrada and 2 on Meadowlark. So I want to take a moment here to recognize the fact that Michael Chavez, and I don't know if Michael's online or not. He probably would be.
He's online.
Put his hands over his ears right now. But his last day will be on Christmas Eve. And I want to just say something in my time here in Corrales, and Michael is the go-to person to talk anything about Corrales, good, bad, or ugly. And he comes to our workplace every day with a smile on his face and an intense pride on trying to do the best for the village of Corrales. And so I'm going to read something here, a little statement, and we'll be following up. You know, his family has a great history here in Corrales. And I just want to make sure that we're all appreciative of it. Public Works Director Michael Chavez will be retiring from the village at the end of December. He has worked for the village since 2015. Michael was born and raised in Corrales and is a great resource for all things, good, bad, and the ugly, like I said. Michael can trace his family's Corrales lineage back to the Corrales founder, Juan Gonzalez Bas, through his mother's side, the family. His mother's grandparents, Demisio and Carolina Rivera, moved to Corrales in 1890 and lived in a little house at 4566 Corrales Road. Michael's mother, Lillian Rivera Chavez, was born in her parents' house that still stands at 4225 Corrales Road. Lillian worked as a Harvey girl at the Alvarado Hotel before meeting and marrying her husband, Vivian Chavez, in 1943. Vivian and Lillian owned and operated the original Sandia Bar beginning in the mid-1940s. Michael says some of his early memories include working the drive-up window of the Sandia Bar at 8 years old.
We didn't hear that.
Yeah.
Quote, I remember being in charge of the Cub Scouts bake sale because I was the only scout that could count money. Michael attended Sandoval Elementary School, which is now Corrales Elementary, Taylor Middle School, and graduated from Cibola High School. He was a member of the Cub Scouts of America, 4-H, and the Future Farmers of America. Once out of high school, he went to work for Los Patios in Corrales for about 1 year, then moved into the construction industry, mostly installing underground utilities and operating heavy equipment. Over the years, this is a quote from Michael, over the years, I've worked my way up from a laborer to a general superintendent. I started Rocky Mountain Excavating, Inc. in 2001 as a utility and emergency on-call contractor. In 2015, Michael received a call from the village administrator looking for advice on a resident with wastewater issues. He found the problem and the resolution, so the administrator offered him a position as a village water wastewater operator. Michael held that position until 2018, in which he was offered the job of Public Works Director. As Public Works Director, Michael has been working to improve the response time to issues that arise and to be more proactive rather than reactive. One of his goals has been to alleviate the flooding issues that plague many parts of Corrales. Michael has no plans to slow down after his retirement. He plans to keep raising cattle and going hunting. We used to herd the cows from one field to another, down the road and along the ditch banks. I've raised livestock for as long as I can remember and will continue doing so. So it's been a pleasure and an asset for all of us residents in Corrales to have Michael here as an asset. And he'll remain as an asset to the village. And in one way or another, he's not going away. You may see him back in this chamber sometime. But it's, you know, speaking from this position, I've always had the ability to get good sound advice from Michael. And so I just wanted to say thank you. And I would just invite any counselors, if they have any comments to Mr. Chavez, Michael Chavez, to offer them to him. But I just want to say thank you, Michael, for your service.
Absolutely. Very good. Yes, Michael's institutional memory is just priceless. You know, you just can't put a dollar figure on it. Yes, sir.
So one advice I would give to him that you'll find that in retirement, you're twice as busy.
Well, I've told him that after about 3 or 4 months of all that hunting and fishing, he can come back here and we can put him to work. Because I assume he's going to get bored. Yes, ma'am.
I just like to thank Michael because every time I called him, no matter if it was after hours or on a Saturday, and I forgot that it was a Saturday and I still called him, he always picked up the phone and was always cordial, always helped me out whatever my question was.
He's always been very responsive. Yes. Okay.
All right. So as we move on, and the mayor has cautioned me that he didn't want this administrator's report to be too long, so I assure you this is the last item I'm going to talk about.
Oh, I didn't say you couldn't make it long. I just said I thought you would be too long.
I'll try not to
You
be
can
boring.
talk-
I won't be
You can
boring.
talk as long as you want.
All right. So Michael is leaving and his acting replacement at this point is another Corrales resident, Steve Lescu. And some of you have met Steve. And one of the things that we try to do in our little village that's so important is to have some sort of succession as we go forward. Because we find that with 50 or so employees, most of the time, we all have very flexible job scope duties. And we try to get along with the best we can as we do that. And it's worked out pretty well in the last few years. But that being said, as you know, I'm going to have 3 people that are here now that are coming on new, and some of them are already here, to give like a 1 or 2 minute brief background about themselves so that you know them and you can ask a question or 2 of them as the mayor sees fit afterwards. So the first one up is Jolene Trippett. And if Jolene will come up here, she's taking the place, or she's the new finance director for us. And I'll let Jolene give a little bit of background on herself and talk about why she's glad to be here.
Thank you. Mayor, Council, Administrator Curry, thank you for having me here tonight and welcoming me. My name is Jolene Trappett. I'm a New Mexico native. I was born and raised in Santa Rosa, New Mexico. I moved to Rio Rancho when I was 11 years old. Graduated from Cibola High School in 1995, and I joined the Air Force in 2000. Went all over the world, lived 10 years in Alaska, where my daughter lives now. She's been there for about 3 years. She was born there, and in the summers, she works on a boat, on a fishing boat. She's also going to school up there. So whenever I can, I try to always go visit Alaska whenever. And if you guys want fishing advice, I'll ask my daughter. I retired from the military in 2020. I was stationed at Whiteman Air Force Base in Warrensburg, Missouri. After that, I worked for the University of Central Missouri. I was the business operations manager, which there I was the finance manager. I got the opportunity to come back home after 25 years, and I just started last Monday. So I'm very happy to be back in New Mexico, and I'm very happy to work with you all and serve the village of Corrales. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jolene.
Thank you.
So the next up, and we can explain some of these changes as we need to. The next up is Juliana Wiggins. And she is taking the place of Cindy Gomez. So
Yes, so hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Juliana Wiggins, and I am the new account specialist. I native Bernalillo. I come from Bernalillo, born and raised. I still live there today, so my commute to Corrales is very short. I started last Monday as well, just like Jolene. I started out at the district attorney's office back in 2014. I did admin there for about 4 years, and then I crossed into the town of Bernalillo. I worked there ranging from library to motor vehicle department to accounts receivable, water department, accounting, and receptionist. So I was an administrative floater there for the town of Bernalillo, and then I went in 2019 to the Sandoval County District Court here in the 13th, and I worked there for about 2 years as the criminal clerk to Chief Judge George Eichwald. And after that, I did a pretrial service officer for about 3 years for the courts before coming here to Corrales. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm anxious to hit the ground running. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
the next up is Jared Garcia. Jared is, I think, going to be on Zoom. Is that correct?
He sure is.
And Jared comes to us to the planning department, and he'll be taking over for Robert, who recently retired. And Jared, we're very lucky to have Jared with us because he is a Corraleño. And so, Jared, if you'd like to tell a little bit about yourself, and Jared is going to be starting on December 16th in the Planning and Zoning Department.
Great. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Jared Garcia, and yes, I'm from Corrales, born and raised, and went to Corrales Elementary School. Went to Taylor and St. Pius. Aside from a brief stint living in France from when I was about 2 to 7, I been in Corrales till I went to grad school. Went to grad school, Massachusetts, at Harvard University. For that, undergrad at University of Colorado at Boulder. And then I got another master's degree from UNM in 2016 in community and regional planning. So I have lived in different states and different countries, but Corrales has always been, close to my heart. So I'm very fortunate and lucky to be back again after so many years. And thank you very much. Look forward to joining the team in the village.
Thank you, Jared.
I see Bill smiling over there.
You know him.
So there's more to come. Like I said, we have new employees in the Parks and Rec Department. And we anticipate, based on your actions, having some new employees in Public Works. So it's been a pretty active thing, but we believe at, talking to so many people over the course of my time in government, I have to say that the experience that we've gone through as a village, looking for good folks that will be sustainable for the village. This last month, for me personally, has been extremely gratifying to see the number of folks that we've seen come through the process that have been qualified and want to work for the village of Corrales.
Councilor Murray, you had a question?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So in the bicycle advisory committee meeting the other day, they were asking about the crosswalk up on Upper Meadowlark being inside, probably in Rio Rancho's territory, but they said that crosswalk needs to be replaced because it is non-existent. And we were wondering is there anything that the village can do to, say, entice the village or Rio Rancho to replace that crosswalk across in the Thompson fence line?
Well, I don't know that it was ever there. We had a big discussion about this, but we are working on that to get a crosswalk.
Yeah.
I know Michael and I were talking about it just a couple of days ago, and probably what we'll have to do is come up with a plan and then go to the administration in Rio Rancho and say, hey, do you have any problem with this?
Well, there was some talk about maybe is there a possibility that we could put a sign up warning drivers that there is a crossing there on the trail at the Thompson fence line. Is there any possibility of doing something like that?
Yes, there are signs that are for that purpose and they can be put there.
Okay.
This has been an area of controversy in the past. I don't know if you remember when they made the wooden people and stood them up on the side of the road, and then they put a stop sign up, they being the council at the time. And there were some automobile accidents that occurred as a result of that. So yes, we have to approach this in a very organized and very careful way and be sure there is appropriate signage to warn people of a crosswalk and that people will be walking across. And there is signage, according to Michael, that we can get.
Okay.
But we have to make sure we have all our ducks in a row before we go.
Sure. Yeah, I understand that.
We've had issues with Rio Rancho in the past.
It was just brought up as a safety concern because the pedestrians, even the equestrians ride the trails and so forth. So anyway, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilor Waldman.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of questions if I could. If not tonight, could you provide maybe by the next meeting an updated status of the administrative parking lot, as well as the concepts for the village center that Amy Bell's been working on? We haven't had any updates for quite some time.
Counselor, we can do that. The quickest update I can tell you is that we've been having conversations about that this last week, especially concerning the fact that the site development plan for the parking lot has been approved by P&Z.
Has been approved.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Speaking of P&Z, they're having a meeting tomorrow, a work study where the comprehensive plan will be discussed during a work study. Will anybody from the administration or our legal counsel be in attendance for that to explain perhaps the administration's position on some of the concerns that you have regarding comprehensive plan?
Mr. Audio is going to be there to explain the legal problems with the document.
Excellent.
And then the planning and zoning can ask whatever questions they want.
Great.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, perfectly. Yeah. Also, and this is for the chief. Chief indicated last meeting that the monthly reports provided on coyotes. What is provided, we saw in the packet tonight, as at every month, is a number, and for this month is the number 2. This tells us nothing about the activity, interaction with the residents, the location, the reason they were attracted to a particular area, et cetera. The coyote management plan requires status reports, not just numbers. as to what's going on in the village in terms of the interaction with coyotes, with people and other animals. Can we get, are reports submitted? Do we know what's going on, but they're not reported to us?
Counselor Waldman, Mayor and Council. So the Animal Services officers essentially maintain a log of calls about coyotes and whether they're just sightings, if there's interaction, if there's an actual incident, some type of attack, something along those lines, they will generate an incident report. Just the numbers on the spreadsheet are just that.
Right.
Numbers on the spreadsheet. Yeah. As far as the purpose of that was for tracking. And in my conversations with the ASOs, they're fairly sporadic sightings. There's no particular pattern or concentrated area. But if more detailed information is desired by the governing body, we could certainly get that for you.
I'm wondering if there are incidents in the course of a week, you have a terrific weekly report that we see, if that could be part of that as well. If there are incident reports
Yes, sir.
generated.
Yeah, absolutely. We can include that. I could forward it through to the administrator who'd be glad to share it with all of you.
One last question, if I could. We discussed this previously. It has to do with the animal services money. We allocated in the last budget $25,000, not knowing whether or not Dennis Friends Foundation was going to be contributing any money this year. And the report indicates that $6,860 has been spent since the 1st of July out of that money, with about 18,000 remaining. So about 1,100 per month for the first 6 months or so, and then 18,000 for the balance. Do we know if Dennis Friends has provided any funds for this year for animal services?
Councilor Waldman, Mayor and Council, we've received a letter of intent that there was a grant awarded. We have not received the funds quite yet.
Okay.
And just for clarification on the 25,000 that was set aside. So we began the fiscal year on July 1st with about 2,500 left from the previous Dennis Friends donation. We expended that in 5 weeks. And that was just a busy beginning to the fiscal year.
Yep.
We had $10,000 set aside in for professional services under a line item that I encumbered first. Tried to treat the 25,000 as essentially the plan B, the backup. So we've committed, we've obligated that first $10,000, and we've only gone into that $25,000 by about $75 for a professional service for a health issue for a duck.
Is there any problem with animal services accessing that money when they need it?
No, not at all, but
Okay.
Councilor, Mayor and Council, we were planning on expending the existing purchase
Sure,
order first,
sure.
and then
Yep.
going into that 25,000, and then, of course, we could always put that on hold and start spending the grant money too, once that's received. So, yeah, so far so good.
Well, to quote someone wiser than me, it's always better to spend other people's money than your own. So
I agree.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I assume you're making a comment about me.
absolutely. So
So I
thank-
want to say something about coyotes. So the problem is reporting. People who see the coyotes or have an incident with the coyotes, they need to report it to us. And they don't always know that. And we're trying to say, go to the coyote management plan, look, see what you need to do.
Yep.
Because, for example, and you also need to see the coyotes. For example, we've lost 3 chickens in the last couple of weeks. Now, we assume, because there's no body parts, nothing left, it's all gone. We assume it's a coyote, but we didn't see them. Our neighbors lost a little Lhasa Apso. We assume it's a coyote. They assume it's a coyote. They saw footprints on the dirt, but they didn't see the coyote. So unless you see the coyote, it's kind of like you don't want to blame them unnecessarily.
Yep.
We know that they're out there and we know they're doing stuff, and we're doing the best we can to work with them or to work with them. But, you like to have better documentation.
Yeah. And if you perhaps both in your reports, your weekly reports, could put in there that it is illegal to use firearms in the village. We had the one incident where it was assumed there was a 22 caliber rifle was shot, a coyote ran out. So if perhaps you could emphasize that.
That has
again.
been said a couple of times,
Yep.
I mean,
We
all we
can
could,
repeat it.
but it may take 6 or 7 more times.
Yep. Yep. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Yes, Councilor Murray.
just-
Oh, you want to talk, Chief?
Yeah.
Chief, Councilor Murray wants to ask.
So any thoughts about how you're going to spend the 40,000 that you got tonight?
Well, sir, so I don't know if you saw the portion of the police animal services report included with the administrator's packet, but we're spending a lot of money on veterinary expenses. And so, I think we need to, be fairly conservative with that and not undertake any additional projects and just have it available for veterinary care costs. And part of the agreement with the Dennis Friends Foundation, when we accept the grant donations, is to provide the vet vouchers for residents in need for animal care, whether they can't afford the vaccination, spay and neuter, other types of surgeries for their pets. So that $40,000 is not as much as it seems, essentially, is what I'm saying.
Well,
We're gonna-
I was curious about, there were some deficiencies in the animal service building when we finally got it open. Especially with the open pens that are outside, providing protective covers. I mean, is there any thoughts about maybe making those, instead of a canvas cover, maybe a permanent roofing over those open pens or anything like that, so that they're not exposed?
Councilor Murray and Mayor and Council, we haven't had those discussions yet, but they're not out of the question. I mean, that would be within the parameters of the grant as far as animal care goes. But like I said, the $40,000 isn't going to last as long as we'd like it to.
Sure. Thank you.
Councilor Alsabrook.
I may need to go to my optometrist. You're both are saying $40,000. When I looked at the check, I thought it was $4,000.
Oh, so Councilor Alsabrook, Mayor and Council, that was from Kiwanis Clubs.
Okay, you're talking about the total.
pet
Okay,
parade,
thank
yeah,
you.
And then for Dennis Friends, that's my understanding, was the grant award.
Gotcha.
Which-
Okay, all right.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That
I
can
can
sometimes be a
optometrist away.
problem if you drop a zero or add a zero. Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you're talking about real money.
Yeah.
So,
Chief, thank you very much. Oh, do we have another question?
Not-
Councilor Waldman.
But one last question, quickly. You mentioned about the 4 flashing speeding signs on Lawn Trot and Meadowlark. I thought we discussed Loma Larga as being a major problem in terms of speeding.
Well,
Well-
the radar speed signs that we're talking about are not on Loma Larga.
Right.
And so that's why we focus on Lon Trotto and Meadowlark.
Next year, Bill.
But
If you want to do more, we'll bring it up in the budget. We'll just have to do it that way.
There's more police on Loma Larga on those other 2 streets.
yeah, so, okay,
Okay?
yes.
You have anything else? Is that enough?
That's enough.
Okay. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Now you can kick back and put your feet up.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to move on from the administrator's report to Corleone's forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion and debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or a concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. There will be a 3-minute time limit for each speaker. Okay,
Up first, we have Tara Trafton. She will be joining us by Zoom.
okay.
Tara, if you could state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. So, good evening, Mayor and Councilors. Tara Trafton, 5311 Corrales Road. I'm speaking to you again about Salsi Park. I was in person a couple of months ago, maybe just a month and a half, time flies, to speak on behalf of our family and the community for that neighborhood in the Sagebrush subdivision. Really trying to emphasize the importance and the value to the community of Salsi Park and how we would really like to see that development move forward. In the time since then, through my job, I've identified a grant that would essentially fund up to $1 million entirely of development, planning and development for the park. It's the Land and Water Conservation Fund administered through New Mexico State Parks. There is additionally, it's a federally funded grant. It's 50-50, up to $500,000. Then in the state of New Mexico, we have an additional grant which would cover the village's match. So that is how we arrive at that $1 million number. We have, it can be used for both planning and construction. We would have up to 3 years to spend these funds, which would give us the time to review the plans that have been developed, get community consensus, make sure we have a plan that works for all of the demographics of our community. The deadline to apply is January 3rd. I know that's very soon, but I want to emphasize that the state has made it very clear they want to give this money away. They want to support communities in encouraging outdoor recreation. And so this is a wonderful opportunity for the village. I am willing to do everything I can. Again, this park is personally very important to me. And so I'm willing to do everything I can to support the village. I have a week off around Christmas, and I would be willing to devote basically full time to whatever the village needs as far as any support I can offer to get this application in on time. I've reached out. I think all of you have received emails from me, as well as I've attended the recent Parks and Rec meeting to bring this to their attention. And so I just want to ask the village to please, if you are committed to doing something with this park, this is an incredible opportunity. And I want to ask what has been done since that last meeting, and can we pursue this grant? I know that it would require some support from staff. I know that our Parks and Rec director is going to be leaving at the end of this week, I believe, on his vacation. So I don't know what sort of plan we could put in place, but I just really don't want us to miss this opportunity. And yeah, I really hope that you'll consider accepting my help or any help to get this application in on time. That's everything I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Mayor, may I say just one thing?
Yes.
Tara, we're already working on this grant.
Fantastic. For Salsey Park?
Yes.
Fantastic. If you need any help, please let me know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Up next is Teresa Lopez. Teresa, if you'll come up and state your name and address for the record, you will have 3 minutes.
Teresa Lopez, Rupert's Lane, Corrales. Some people in this room may not like the word transparency, but it goes right along with the word respect. Most of us were raised with this word and like those, and most of us were raised with this word and those like it, and still try to live and work by them. Out of fear, we sometimes lose what we have. We, the Corredeños, are all stakeholders in the village of Corrales. We have a voice and don't fear anymore. We stand with pride, transparency, and respect with the people that have worked hard for us to live the best we can in our rural way of living. Growth happens, but it needs to include all of the voices with transparency and respect.
Thank you.
Okay, up next is Bill Perkins. Bill, if you'll state your name and address for the record, you will have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilors. Bill Perkins, my address is 5768 Corrales Road. I will be attending, or will be planning to attend, the commission meeting tomorrow to learn more about the comprehensive plan. But the first thing I'd like to just share with you is I urge the governing body to endorse the comprehensive plan as prepared by the review committee, so that the plan can serve as a guide for the village through 2035. I believe it's a good plan. Now, I wasn't expecting the news I learned about the new hire for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Good news. But I'd just like to add comments about planning. I believe sound planning should be an integral part of the normal work of the village administration. Planning should not be provided on an on-call basis, nor should planning be provided through a separate entity, especially one with a primary mission of advancing economic development. Sound planning can help ensure the village is responsive to its citizens as well as to business interests. I urge the village governing body to look forward to a positive future. I believe sound planning needs to be a vital part of that future. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
And last but not least, Salome Ward. If you'll come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's Salome Ward. I'm at 204 East Meadowlark Lane, and I'm really nervous right now, so sorry if I'm, basically, I've been away for a few months, and I've been following things through Zoom calls, and there's a lot of things happening, and I'm trying to catch up and learn about everything, but I guess I just wanted to come here and add my 2 cents about certain things. I've written letters to some of you. So some of the things are about the noise ordinance, which I don't even know where some of these issues stand right now. So I don't know if I'm talking about things that were already decided. Also, the whole Main Street issue, the multi-use facility issue, all of these things. Basically, I'm moving here from New Jersey. So I would like to preserve Corralis's slow, tranquil kind of vibe that's going on. I don't want to see it become part of an extension of Albuquerque or Rio Rancho. I lived in a Main Street community in New Jersey for over 22 years. It doesn't solve all problems. There were still businesses that had to close, big vacancies, things still happen. So I don't know if that is the kind of solution. Also, I saw a lot of effort being made to separate New Mexico Main Street from Corrales Main Street. But again, in my experience and seeing what happens in other states, if the purse strings are coming from from New Mexico Main Street, then they also control Corrales Main Street. Also about there was some kind of a letter, there was a presentation one day talking about the formation or possible formation of a metropolitan redevelopment area. And that is something that just set such alarms off in my head, because that is something that happened in my other community. And it caused such a drastic change. The way I see it, it's a way to have loopholes and to forego zoning laws in order to facilitate and speed up certain kinds of development and not, have them bypass a certain kind of the normal way things are done. So these are just my 2 cents. I'm just trying to add these things and just learn about everything that's going on. But I'm very concerned about certain conversations that are happening. I understand businesses exist, but I would hope that business interests are not put above residents and our quality of life here in Corrales.
Thank you.
That's everyone.
Okay. So let's move on. Oh, counselors forum. Geez. Wouldn't that have been something if I forgot that? Counselors forum. This section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion and debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or a concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. A council member may respond to an issue or concern brought up by a resident in the preceding Corralinos forum, but to remain in compliance with the Open Meeting Act, the subject will not be up for debate or discussion. Who wants to start?
Can I just
Burkett.
Just very shortly, something that probably doesn't generally fall under the purview of counselors forum. I have to, as unrudely as possible, leave here in about 5 minutes to go deal with a medical situation at a hospital. So
absolutely,
just wanted to put that on your radar that it's not because I find anything any of you guys are saying upsetting. I may, but that's not the reason I'm leaving. So yeah, I know you smell incredible tonight.
That's right.
Not a problem.
There'll be video.
You have an excuse. Yes, sir.
So I have 3 items and one of them will be somewhat lengthy, but I'll try to make it real short. First one is I would like to see the council receive a copy of the monthly financial reports sent to the DFA. When I attended the recent budget conference, and that was one of the things that I took away from it that the council could use, because when we get to budget talks, I don't really have a clue what the hell's going on. So I'd like to see those reports on a monthly basis or quarterly basis. It doesn't matter. I'd also like to recommend that we think about, for budget purposes, setting aside 5% of our proposed budget for projects, because out of this conference as well, I could see other communities who have these plans for projects, and they are setting aside money for these. The governor is really kind of coming to the grips that monies that is being allocated for capital outlay It's going to be for projects that are to be completed. It's not for wish lists. So that's the two items I want to, and then I want to read a statement that I have. And this is based on information I did not have until tonight. But anyway, I was extremely disappointed to read the Parks and Recreation Commission minutes on page 35 of our December 10th, 2024 packet contents. The Park and Rec Commission comments were not only dismissive of rehabilitating Salsey Park, but they also had disinformation. If they had checked their facts, they might have been supportive of Salsey Park. The petition that was brought before the council on October 22nd, 2024 indicated overwhelming support by the Sagebrush community. A park can serve both local and village residents. What this village needs is more parks for residents. As Councilor Waldman has said, only 4% of the village residents are within a 10-minute walk to the nearest park. Why are they against this park that they're supposed to stand for in the village? The recreation center and the library park should not be the only parks in the village. We need more open space for our residents to enjoy. Are they against the interior drain project? The more I read page 35, the more I thought it was time to dissolve the Parks and Rec Commission. But rather, the Parks and Rec Commission needs to re-examine who they represent in this village. It is the residents and not their self-serving interest. If the council decides Salsey Park should be revived, then the committee members better get on board with the decision. Let me remind the Parks and Rec Commission that there are 4 acres with water rights that were donated to the village for Salsey Park. 2 acres are now chosen for flood control, leaving the other 2 acres that can be a minimal maintenance, inviting park for the Sagebrush residents. Water rights at Salsey Park are not just for the core of the village. They are for the Sagebrush community as well. I have also heard that Parks and Rec Director Lynn Sieverts disparaged the idea as well. Mayor Fahey and Mr. Curry, you need to remind Mr. Sieverts that he works for the village and it is his place to support any decision made by this council. It's not his place to discourage the rehabilitation of current parks. Councilor Waldman has pointed this out in the past council meeting. He works for the residents of this village. And also there are 2 positions on the Parks and Rec Commission coming up for approval later next year. I will be supportive of new applications and not reaffirming the current members if they choose to reapply. It's time we got innovative ideas from the Parks and Rec Commission that will think creatively and not just for the status quo. And then that brings me to the second issue with the Parks and Rec Commission. The Parks and Rec Commission needs to find a slot in the village calendar where their meetings can be held in village facilities, not in a restaurant where consumption of alcohol takes place during public meeting. It is not proper for any commission to consume alcohol in a public meeting where commission members represent the village in an official or advisory capacity. If they wish to consume alcoholic beverages, let them do it after the meeting in another location. And Mayor and councilors, we work for the residents of this village. We are not here to serve our interest, but the interest of the village. So if the residents speak, we should listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Anyone else? Okay. Let's move to consent agenda. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the consent agenda? If so, please, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Do I have a second? In a second. Okay, we have a resolution, we have 3 resolutions. Okay, how do you vote, Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Waldman?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
And Councilor Murray?
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda is okay. Now we move on to new business, new consideration action approval of resolution 24-85, giving signing authority to our new finance director, Jolene Trappett. I need a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
And a
I'll
second.
second. Then if I don't hear first.
All right, this is necessary so she can write your checks.
I approve.
I mean, that's the simple, direct way of.
Some of us get bigger checks than others.
Some of you are getting bigger checks than others. That's correct.
You will.
Councilor Murray, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Jolene, you have a job. Where'd she go? Oh, there she is. Consideration action approval of 3rd addendum to the joint powers agreement establishing the Sandoval County Regional Emergency Communication Center. So,
We had that.
huh?
I thought we had that.
Well, Rio Rancho decided they didn't want to be sharing anything with the rest of us, and so they've kind of divorced us. And so we are in the process of setting up another SCREC separate, and this is the addendum so we can split up. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony. This is so we can split up all the assets, which include a couple of $1 million that can be used to set up the new PSAP. Don't ask me what that stands for. I always forget. But it has to do with the emergency, the 9/11 emergency access. And so we needed to do this joint powers agreement because one of the parties wasn't happy with the existing agreement. So that's why. Yes, sir.
Mayor, can I ask a question about that? Where does funding come for that? Is that state funds? Is that?
Anthony, I need help.
Are you talking about the Emergency Communication Center itself or this?
The ongoing,
estab-
the ongoing funding.
Go ahead, Andy.
Mayor, Counselor, can I get clarification of the question? I didn't.
Yeah, very often when we get our bills for taxes or whatever, there's a whole litany of places where money is going to go. I'm wondering where the money goes for the communications for this center.
Where it comes from.
Where it comes from. Yeah.
So it comes from the 5 entities in the JPA. So currently, Corrales, Rio Rancho, Sandoval County, Town of Bernalillo, Santa Ana. And we all pay a portion into that fund, and the funds are in Rio Rancho. They're the fiscal agent currently. And what we're doing by the separation is we're creating 2 fiscal agents, Sandoval County, which will be in charge of the employees and the center for the Sandoval County Regional Dispatch Center. And Rio Rancho is going to have their own PSAP, and they're going to be under a separate name. I think Rio Rancho Public Safety Communications or whatever they decide to name it.
And do we know what the future budget might be after June 30th for this, and how much Corrales is going to contribute?
So there has been proposals. The budget right now currently, as Sandoval County is preparing it, they have they hired a consultant who's preparing all that. The initial budget right now is pretty high because we're building a center. They have, they're remodeling an old emergency management building. There's equipment to purchase. Some of the equipment under this addendum and some of the capital monies is going to help offset those costs. But
that center, it's not the one it used to be in Placitas, is it? It used to be an emergency center in Placitas.
No, this is over by their main headquarters off of
Idalia.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Well, but we'll get in the near future, we'll get
yes,
we'll get
a rough dollar figures what we're talking about. Okay.
So historically, we were at 3% of the total package, and we'll probably double that because it will be cut in half.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions? How do you vote, Councilor Mira?
I need a motion.
Oh, I thought we had a motion.
I move to so approve.
Okay, we need a motion. Motion? Second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Anthony. You don't stay up there. So how do you vote, Councilor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Councilor Waldman?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Alsobrook?
Aye.
And Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Okay. Jess, you don't say something. Okay. Approval of creation of a new position for Public Works, and this is for a heavy equipment operator. We do not have a person who is a licensed heavy equipment operator at this time. And by getting somebody who can do that, not only can he further train the guys we have, he can make it, we can get better, we have more opportunities for grants. Because right now we're sort of limited because we have primarily wastewater, credits or certificates, whatever you want to call them. And this will give us a person who can actually work the heavy equipment, do drainage better, do roads better, and allow us to apply for more grants. Did I get that right, Melanie?
Yes, sir.
That sounds right. Okay. So I need a motion to approve the creation of the new position for Public Works. We don't have someone yet. We have to put it out for bid or whatever.
So moved.
Second.
In a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Yes, sir.
All right, so these are in addition to the budget we have already passed. How much are we asking to increase the budget by
Well,
putting these?
right now, it's not a problem because we're really low down on the police force. So there is a lot of money in the budget that we can use.
So you're.
But we did
sacri-
budget, didn't we? Melanie, do you recall, didn't we budget an extra person for not heavy, but for Public Works?
So Public Works already has an open position that's a wastewater operator. So what they would like to do is create this position of heavy equipment operator, but use the funding for that open wastewater operator to fund this position because they need somebody that can come in and operate the heavy equipment for them. So that this position is in the budget, but the position for the administrative assistant would be additional.
So that was one of my questions was, are we sacrificing positions for the creation of these 3 positions?
No. No, we have positions that aren't filled throughout the village and we're using those funds. And next time we do budget, we may have to come up with a little bit extra money for different positions, but right now we don't.
If you're sacrificing the wastewater to create this position, doesn't that mean that we'll have to
We have
revisit?
3 wastewater workers.
And this position could get that training as well.
Okay.
So it's cross-training. Yes, Counselor Knight.
Yeah, that was my question. Are we losing a wastewater person to get this?
No, they're going to be double trained. They're going to teach each other how to do this stuff.
So-
And so to a point that they may actually get certified.
Right.
And wastewater operators are in very short supply around the state. So it would be much easier for us to get somebody hired in under this job title of heavy equipment operator and send them to training for wastewater operator than it would be to hire somebody at the wastewater operator and train them to do heavy equipment. So we're trying to look for ways to use the money that we've already budgeted wisely.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Counselor Murray, how do you vote?
Aye.
Counselor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Meara?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's passed. Okay, so now approval of creation of a new position for Public Works Administrative Assistant. So I don't know if you've noticed, but the Public Works Department has been doing a tremendous amount of grant-related or legislative fund-related work. And we sort of need to have somebody who can work with our finance officer to manage those funds and keep them straight, for lack of a better description, okay? And with Michael leaving, that's going to be a bit of a problem for quite a while because he's very accustomed to doing that. So we feel like and we've talked about this for at least a year, about having an administrative assistant over there. We think it would make him more efficient because then Michael could, or not Michael, but Steve, who will take over Michael's place, could be out in the field as opposed to sitting at a desk on a computer. So I need a motion to approve the administrative assistant for Public Works.
So moved.
I need a second, please.
A question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if this administrative assistant isn't busy at some point during the year, can that person be used someplace else?
If we need them someplace else and they're not working yes, they will go someplace else and do something else. We have a lot of cross training. We have a small organization and people help each other out.
Grants are tough to write,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
if somebody else needed help.
Correct. Yes.
Well, shouldn't we have written into this job description that they might be doing field work?
No. I mean, we could have, but we didn't. Now, I don't have a second, I don't think.
Yeah, that's right. I was.
I have a first. I'm waiting for a second.
You got it.
Second.
There's a second. Okay. We could have, but we didn't because we wanted an administrative assistant we could cross-train them over to help with finances, for example.
Yeah, but do we run into problems if they are out in the field doing the job that they are not have not been?
They won't do that job.
Well, all right. So again, we're getting back to, we're taking positions away that we're going to have to recreate come budget time. Are we not?
It's a new position.
Yes, a new position.
It's going to be funded. The answer to your question is no. We're not going to have them out there doing the heavy equipment. We're not going to have them out there digging ditches. They're going to do administrative work. There's enough work for them to do. I mean, they can come, if they get bored or if they don't have enough to do, they can come help Melanie. I mean, it's hopping.
I understand that, but I just have concerns that we're creating positions that we're going to regret later down the road in budget.
Okay. Your concerns are noted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? How do you vote, Counselor Mira?
Yes, sir.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Alsterbrook?
Aye.
Counselor Murray?
Passed reluctantly, yes.
Okay. All right, put a little note, put a little post-it note, says Counselor Murray's got some concerns and we'll deal with those. Okay. Approval of creation of a new position for Administration Department Training Specialist. So this is not a long-term position. Or is it? Well, it depends on long-term. Yeah, okay. So Cindy Gomez, who was the account specialist, is now training Jolene, helping to train Jolene and Juliana in their jobs. And that's going to be her job for at least until she retires.
He's also going to be training other.
And she'll be training other department heads because we think that they need to know how to do grants. They need to know how to, figure out what's the best way to get money. We like for people to go out and get someone else's money. So we don't have to use so much of the village's money. I need a motion to create the new position for the Administration Department Training Specialist.
What's the time frame? Then
Well, probably a year at least. At least. Oh, yes, go ahead. I'm sorry. He should be telling you this anyway.
The idea is that we have found that it creates more efficiencies. Just like when we're doing a budget, if we get the needs and the wants from the department heads as it's fed to their employees. And that's a true and factual statement. On the other hand, when it comes time to obligate some of the monies that come to a various department, there's been a reliance that that's all done by, in this case, Jolene. And so that's fine, but we believe that in the long run, it's better for the people who have the money on the ground in their departments that start to create things like the notice of obligation and how that money eventually gets spent and go through the process. Jolene and Juliana, of course, will be looking at it as it comes up, but we believe the best thing we do to create some sort of sustainable financial stuff in our financial systems within the department heads to have them be trained, and Cindy's going to do that.
Does Michael?
Cindy is the longest person longevity wise that has had her hands and mind on the finances of this village for upwards of 11 years, I believe now at this point. And so that sort of institutional knowledge is priceless. I can give you several examples where I've seen checks that come in front of me to be signed that I've gone to Cindy and asked for a question as to why this has happened. And there's been several of them that we found out that they have been not neglected, but haven't been justified over the years. And so it's that sort of expertise that we want to capture and put into the department heads. And that's why it's a training for not just our finance people, but training finance into our regular program people.
Yes, sir.
this is going to be probably a bit off the wall. Is it possible to create a manual that as Cindy goes along in the course of a year, that she can start writing things down in a manual so that each department head would know, and successive department heads would know what's going on?
We agree, Counselor, and we've started that process.
We have an accounting policies and procedures manual already.
And we continue to update it because one of the things that and both Jolene and Juliana can tell you this is that the type of system we work with Tyler and Cindy's expertise on them, there's a version 9 and there's a version 10. And the difference between the two are almost night and day. And so as we transition into the new finance people, it's important that we have the expertise that Cindy has is to make sure that that is afforded to them. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into Cindy's office over the years, and she'll be over on a 4 to 5 hour conference call with Tyler, listening to this seminar going on at the same time she's preparing checks and payroll for people to sign. And so it's a constant learning experience. And when we made the switch to Tyler, essentially back in 2019 through 2021, the frustration level was very high, but it's one of those systems like I'm sure some of you are familiar with. It's like building Tinker Toys. You know, you get up to a point, you get it, this is frustrating, and then all of a sudden it comes together at the end. And that's the same thing with Tyler and their financial systems. But the difference again between 9 and 10 is night and day. And so that's what both Jolene and Juliana are working with and are helping to make that happen. And Tanya's been a big part of that as well.
Thank you.
Michael, did you want to say something? Okay. Councilor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. So,
we don't have a motion yet, you know.
okay, do you want to?
Yeah, make a motion.
I'm not going to make a motion. Somebody else make a motion.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second. All right. Now I have a question.
Now, go ahead.
All right, so the way this was written, I was under the assumption that we were going to get somebody new and bring them into the village and they were going to start all this training, which seemed kind of idiotic to me because if somebody new was coming in the village, they wouldn't know how the hell we worked. So.
You're right.
But now the way you explain it, I'm worried is that when we get to budget time, are we going to fund this for 6 more months or 1 year? Because it could grow into a permanent position, which we may not have enough training to do. And consequently, the person's going to be sitting around doing nothing. I mean, if what's
This person is not going to sit around doing.
well, I understand that, but I'm looking down the road at a year or two, you know, is this position still going to be open? I mean, still be on the budget.
We'll certainly discuss it when that time comes up.
Okay.
When is that? Like April, May, somewhere in there?
We start in March.
We're going to start in March. We can certainly talk about it then. We can tell you how things are going. In fact, it'll be quite evident how things are going if Jolene and Juliana are, you know, just perking along. But there's going to be, I think there's going to be need. There's always need for training and education and taking people who have the experience and the institutional knowledge to tell you what, you know, I just think of my own personal experience years ago with residents and teaching them how to do stuff and what happened before and what you need to look out for now. I mean, I think that's going to be just priceless.
But wouldn't it also be cost effective to have somebody come in on a periodic basis from Tyler and train people?
I don't think we can get Tyler to do that.
Well,
Tyler doesn't even answer
okay.
the damn phone half the time.
Here's, we have Tyler coming in. We've signed him to a short-term contract to help come in and train. We look at every position in the budget every year from a zero-based point of view. And make no assumptions. So we assess every position in the village as to the funding capabilities and its program capabilities every year. And this position will be no different.
Okay.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we've already, well, I think we did that already.
Did we?
Yeah, I think we did.
As long as we vote.
I made Stuart, you know, he didn't want to do it, so somebody down here did.
All right.
I hope Melanie got it. Okay, we've
Sure did.
discussed this.
Yeah.
If that's okay with you, let's have a vote. Counselor Mira, how do you
Yes, sir.
vote? Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Counselor Murray?
Aye.
Okay, we have now moved Cindy over to training specialists. All right. Last but certainly not least, consideration action approval of awardee for RFP 24-002 Village Attorney Services. Motion?
Tell us all about
Motion approved.
it.
Second?
Most for discussion.
Second.
Okay, this is so we can continue with Randy Audio and his group. Ken?
Oh, okay. I was
You thought we were gonna get somebody else?
I was concerned this was someone else and that they had found disfavor with us and we were building a reputation in the state of being.
No,
difficult to
no,
work
no,
with
no, no.
Or problematic. or-
We do work them hard, but,
Great. Good, glad to hear. Okay, thank you.
yeah, there's gosh, what are there, 6 or 7 in your group?
11. Oh, no, we've got.
You got 11?
Or 12, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and everyone that I've met, which is like about 6 or 7, has been very good, very, very helpful.
But we only have to pay for one at a time.
But we only have to pay for
That-
one at a time.
All right. Move.
Yes, sir.
So the way I read this, that one page, this was only for negotiations with Randy's group. That, I did not see a contract. I was just curious.
The RFP was put out for bid or for proposal.
We're asking council to allow us to go into negotiations for that contract.
Okay, as long as it's not approval of the contract.
No, this is the approval of the firm because they were the only firm that. I think.
We only got one bid for the RFP, but
That concerns me because I know it came out on November 3rd, which is a Sunday. How many other companies even know that they come out?
they usually come out on Sunday. If you look at the legal
I know,
ads,
but-
there's tons on Sundays.
I mean,
We have a bad.
have we got a reputation that only, whoever's under contract, they're the only ones we're going to get?
No,
Yes, sir.
I would think that in their business, just as it is with contractors and others, if you're hungry and you're looking, you find it. And if you're happy and not looking for anything. So I
Well, they're already here and they're probably, had the ear to the ground.
they are.
Yeah, but I understand, but so my son works for a HVAC company and they have contacts. Of course, there's a website where these bids go out to, and he checks that website to make sure that the contract's there. But how many other law firms are even aware that, we have put out an RFP? If they missed the November 3rd mentioned in the paper, how would they know?
It's on our website and it stays up the entire
Well, I
length of
understand.
time in between when it's posted and when bids are
Yeah, but
accepted.
nobody's going to come check our website out for an RFP, I don't believe. At least that's.
I've had people that have contacted me and said they found the RFP through their website and asked for information. So not for this bid, but in the past.
Yeah, anyway,
It's a very specialized group of people that do this, municipalities. It's not like, all those other lawyers that are looking to sue for truck accidents and.
Ron Bell?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean you want to see Randy advertise on TV? Okay, so that's enough, actually.
well, but, all right, so is Randy's group under CES? Are you guys, are you under the CES purview?
State contract.
Mayor, Councilor Murray, state, the CES, I'm sorry.
Well, it's the,
You wouldn't be.
all right, how about New Mexico Municipal League? I mean, do they take advertising for law firms?
To my knowledge, Counselor, they don't have a regular publication that would carry stuff like that. To my knowledge, and again, I'm obviously interested in this, but to my knowledge, there's one other firm in the Albuquerque area that specializes in local government law at all.
Okay.
So it's a narrow class of people.
Okay, so
I think it's time we voted. Does anybody disagree? Counselor Mira,
Yes, sir.
Counselor Woolman,
Aye.
Counselor Knight, Counselor Alsobrook,
Aye.
Counselor Murray.
no.
Okay, that's fine. 4-1, that's okay.
Yeah.
All right, so future agenda items. So we're going to do a liquor license hearing for Stuck Lizard Vineyards on 1/14/25. Stuck Lizard.
And it will be a wholesaler and
They're not a vineyard though.
yeah,
They have venues.
They are
Yeah.
a vineyard?
Do you
Yeah.
need a
They grow
vineyard?
their own grapes.
Do you need to have a liquor license for vineyard?
yes, to be a distributor. They're gonna sell their wine.
Gonna sell on property.
Yeah, no, they're not gonna sell, they're not gonna have any
Retail.
consumption on the property. They'll just be
But they're
distributing
going to
the
grow
wine from there.
grapes and make wine.
Yes.
Okay.
They do that.
Yeah.
Incorrect.
And then we're going to have on the 28th, we're going to bring back the Arts and Cultural District plan.
Yes, yeah, that was postponed until the date certain of
Yes.
January 28th.
Okay. Anything else that you can remember off the whiteboard? It's not on this.
Do we know the address on this?
We're gonna see if we can get the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission and the Bosque Advisory Commission and the Equestrian Advisory Commission to come in and give an update to council.
Oh.
But maybe not all at once,
Yeah.
but
But start getting it.
over a couple of meetings.
Yeah, we need Parks and Rec to definitely come in.
Mr. Mayor, do we know the address of that Stuck Vineyard?
I don't.
I have
Stuck
it,
Lizard, I'm sorry.
yeah, I believe it's on Meadowlark.
It's on West Meadowlark and it's on the north side of the street.
Okay.
Okay.
It's about
Okay.
a third of the way up.
Okay.
I believe they're in my.
All right. Well, it looks to me like we've finished our business meeting. We are adjourned.